Hi, I'm Saralyn Frohreich, and this is my story. So I grew up in Southern California as a Catholic girl, went through all of the churches, but it always kind of left me empty because they didn't have the answers that I needed. So when I was 12, my dad died, and at the time it wasn't the standard of having a single family household. So my mom was a widow at 33 with 3 children, and we kind of became a little bit of social outcasts. So we were pretty much just together, my sister, brother, and myself. So then I started college, and shortly after that, I had a serious car accident, and I almost died in the car accident. And I had my nose pretty much ripped off of my face, a severe concussion, and they couldn't figure out why I hadn't died. The Lord told me at that point that He had plans for me, so kind of picked myself up and just continued on. So then I met my first husband, and we got married, and we had 3 boys. He had an alcohol and drug problem that had never shown itself until we had gotten married, and it got to the point that he didn't want to work, and I had numerous jobs, and I was taking care of the kids, and it just was time to let go. So I finally asked him to leave and became a single mother with 3 boys. I decided then that I wasn't meant for marriage. So then we went on, and I started going to CODA meetings, which were Codependents Anonymous. And while I was there, I met Andrew. Andrew was already saved by that point, and when we started dating, we started going to church together. And that was where I got to know Jesus as my personal Lord and Savior. So I became baptized, and we had moved in together. And the good thing was we were trying to blend our family, but we were extremely convicted because we were not married. So after about a year and a half, we decided we were either going to break up or we were going to get married. So I went to a women's retreat, and I prayed, and the Lord told me that this was the man He had chosen for me. So Andrew and I got married, and since we already had 4 children together, we decided on not having any more children. And God again was up there laughing, and we had a wonderful surprise. And when I was 40, I got pregnant with Corbin. So then we had our 5th child, so we became a yours, mine, and ours family. So that had its own trials with our exes. We had to go through custody battles and being dragged through court, and that was not a fun part. But all in all, we just stayed true. We brought our children to church and just kind of tried to live our life the way we could. A few years down the road, our house flooded. And when I say flooded, I mean really flooded. The house was destroyed. So we had to live in hotels. We brought the kids and the dogs with us. Took us a year and a half to fix up our house. And it was an interesting way that God brought us to learn to do construction on our own. So when our job stopped, we decided we liked what we were doing, and we moved on to construction. So after a year and a half, our house was finally rebuilt. We started enjoying the kids, backpacking, biking, exercising. And then about 5 years after that, Andrew started having some problems, and they thought he was having a heart attack, which was kind of unusual because we'd just gotten back from backpacking and riding our bike to Julian. And it started the beginning of 8 months in and out of a hospital. And so they couldn't find out what was wrong with him because he was in such great shape. So he was known as the mystery patient. At one point he had 21 specialists and none of them knew what was going on. Finally, after a very persuasive talk by me to one of the doctors, they ran a test and they came back, and the doctor came in the room and said they finally figured out what he had, and that it was extremely rare, and that he would probably never work again, that he would never be able to have a normal life, and he would be in and out of hospitals for the rest of his life. My first response to the doctor was, our God is bigger than this. And from that moment on, that was what we had to rely on. There was only one cure for what he had, as it was extremely rare, and it was a surgery. There was only one place in the United States that did it, and that was Cleveland. I was having a difficult time getting his paperwork there. And at one point, I was so frustrated, and I called my niece, who was a nurse, complaining, and she said, why don't you fire the cardiologist? So I fired the cardiologist, who immediately called me back and sent us the key to Andrew's surgery. He sent us to a place that not only knew of the surgery, but did the surgery. San Diego was the second place in the United States that performed the surgery. Then there was, he wasn't doing well. And then there was one day, and he finally looked at me and said, I'm not gonna make it. He said, this is just not gonna go well. And we'd been praying, and I was with him. I stayed with him in the hospital, and I knew God could heal him. One of the gifts God gave me was faith, and I knew God could heal him, and I prayed and prayed. And so finally they wanted to see him to check and see if they could do the surgery. And I was praying, and I said, God, I know you can fix this. I just don't understand. And finally he said, do you trust me? I said, of course I trust you. And he said, no, do you trust me with everything, with that you love the most? And at that moment in time, I realized that I never let go. And I decided that if he wanted to take Andrew home, then I knew he'd be there waiting for me, but that he was God, and I needed to let him do what he knew was best. So fortunately, it turned out well for me, and God gave me my miracle, and Andrew had his surgery, and within 8 days, he was back on a bike. And the thing I realized was that all of the trials I'd gone through, God never left me. The things that I always thought could be the most traumatic in my life, God turned into my greatest blessings. My name is Saralyn Frohreich, and this is my story.